The private jet hummed smoothly through the winter sky, soft golden light spilling through the oval windows. Emma Caldwell leaned back in her leather seat, perfectly polished, perfectly cruel. She had everything: looks, wealth, power, and she was bored. Then the twins appeared, Jadon and Malik, two black boys dressed in bright, mismatched Christmas sweaters that clashed with the understated luxury of the jet. Emma's lips curled. She reached across the aisle and snatched Malik's candy cane-patterned scarf. "Seriously, who dresses you like that?" she sneered. Her friends giggled behind her. Malik didn't react. Jadon's eyes met hers, calm, unshaken. That silence made Emma's blood boil. She pulled harder, tugging at the scarf. "Do you even know how to dress?" Malik's small hands gripped the scarf but didn't resist violently. He just stared at her with a quiet dignity she couldn't break. Emma laughed loud and sharp, turning toward the other passengers for validation. "Look at them, they actually think these hideous things are okay for a flight." The cabin went tense. Some passengers murmured. The flight attendants exchanged worried glances. Then a deep, commanding voice cut through the air like thunder. "Take your hands off my son." Emma froze, her eyes darted up. There, stepping down from his seat, was a man in a tailored black coat, calm, immovable, and terrifying in his authority. "I'm Marcus Hale," he said, voice low but unshakable. "And I own this aircraft, and by the end of this flight you will learn exactly what happens to people who bully my sons." Emma's confidence faltered. She had never seen someone so powerful, so unshakable. The twins didn't move. Jadon's hand tightened around his brother's scarf, not in fear but in preparation. Emma's friends started whispering, unsure if this man was serious. The bully girl, once untouchable, felt the first real panic of her life. And the plane was still midair. Marcus Hale's gaze burned into her. "By the time we land, your life will be very different, and not in the way you hoped." Emma's stomach dropped. She had no idea just how far Marcus Hale could reach, or how every little cruelty she had committed on this flight would come crashing down. The jet cabin felt smaller now, the hum of the engines almost drowning out Emma's rising panic. She had thought the twins' Christmas sweaters were an easy target, bright, silly, festive, perfect for mockery. But now the black twins sat upright, calm, unshakable, and their father's presence radiated a silent warning. Emma tried to salvage her pride. "Why are you just sitting there like statues?" she sneered, yanking at Malik's candy cane scarf again. "Don't you have any backbone?" Malik didn't flinch. Jadon's eyes met hers. The calm in them was poison to her confidence. Marcus Hale, leaning casually against the aisle seat, shook his head. "You see, Emma, power isn't about height or wealth or a designer scarf. It's about control, and you've just flown into someone else's control." Emma laughed nervously, trying to mask her fear. "Control, please, it's just a plane, who cares?" Marcus didn't reply. Instead, he picked up a tablet from the seatback and pressed play. The screen lit up with security footage from the plane's cameras, Emma's every act of bullying recorded as if for a courtroom. The tugging of the scarf, the mocking gestures, the cruel whispers, all in crisp, undeniable clarity. Passengers turned to look. Some gasped, others exchanged uneasy glances. Even Emma's friends started backing away, suddenly unsure where the social hierarchy truly lay. Her mother, seated across the cabin, paled. "Emma, Marcus raised a hand. "Let her speak for herself." Emma opened her mouth, but the words caught in her throat. No defense, no charm, no manipulation could undo the evidence displayed for everyone to see. Then Marcus leaned closer, his voice cold and final. "When we land, a full report will be filed, security will meet you, your parents will see the consequences firsthand, and I assure you this isn't just a warning." Emma's heart raced. "This isn't fair, it's just a joke," she stammered. The twins didn't say a word. They just sat, highlighted in the soft Christmas cabin lights, their bright sweaters glowing like tiny beacons of calm power. Their posture screamed one thing: they would never be intimidated and they would never be victims. The cabin tension grew unbearable. Flight attendants discreetly moved closer to Emma, nodding her trembling hands, the flush of fear creeping across her face. The once dominant girl who had thought she ruled every social scene was now entirely exposed, powerless, and surrounded by witnesses. Marcus Hale stood straight, surveying the entire cabin with a single commanding gaze. This flight will land, and when it does, every action will have its consequence. Every whisper, every shove, every cruel word, all will be accounted for. Emma's mind raced. She had no idea that the humiliation, the loss, and the irreversible destruction of her life was already in motion, all unfolding at 35,000 feet. And the twins, they simply waited, calm, dignified, untouchable, their power and composure a mirror to Emma's unraveling. The plane continued to hum through the night sky, but Emma felt as if it had become a coffin, every mile taking her closer to the worst moment of her life. The private jet touched down smoothly, but for Emma, the moment felt like a hammer striking her chest. Every mile of air had been a countdown to humiliation, and now the runway lights spelled her doom. The cabin doors opened and two uniformed security officers stepped aboard. Marcus Hale's calm authority filled the space like a storm, leaving Emma frozen in place. The passengers around her whispered, some filming on their phones, all witnesses to what was about to unfold. Marcus's voice was soft, deliberate, deadly. Emma Caldwell, your behavior during this flight constitutes harassment and abuse. You will follow these officers immediately. Your parents will witness the full consequences of your actions. Emma's mother gasped, Marcus, wait, she's just a child. Marcus shook his head. You taught her cruelty, but I will teach her accountability. Emma's father, pale and trembling, tried to protest. Please, she's my daughter. Her actions, Marcus said coldly, are hers alone, and the evidence is indisputable. The flight attendants handed the officers a tablet with the full video documentation. Every snicker, every yank of the candy cane scarf, every mocking word was captured in high definition, time-stamped, undeniable. Emma's friends, once loyal, now stepped aside, some shaking their heads in disbelief. The girl who had ruled her social circle with fear and charm now had no allies, no escape. The twins, sitting in their Christmas sweaters, rose slowly. Their eyes met Emma's, calm, unshakable, filled with quiet strength. The glow from the cabin lights seemed to highlight them, as if the universe itself marked their dignity against her crumbling pride. One of the twins, Jadon, spoke quietly so that only she could hear. Some lessons can't be unlearned, Emma, but this one will last forever. Emma wanted to shout, to cry, to plead, but the words died in her throat. She realized in that moment that her entire life had been dismantled at 35,000 feet, and now it would land with her broken, irrevocable forever. The officers escorted her off the plane. The cabin crew and passengers watched silently. Whispers followed her as she stepped onto the tarmac, surrounded by a circle of authority and judgment. Cameras flashed, recording every humiliating moment. Outside, the family's reputation collapsed instantaneously. Marcus Hale, the father, ensured that every social and financial connection Emma's family relied upon was severed. By the time she looked up, her parents were silent, defeated, and ashamed. The twins exited last, walking confidently down the steps of the jet. Their laughter, soft but victorious, echoed across the tarmac, a stark contrast to Emma's silence. She was powerless, invisible, forgotten by the world she had once dominated. Her life, once gilded and arrogant, had been reduced to a cautionary tale. The plane doors closed behind her. Inside, Marcus Hale and his sons sat back down, calm, triumphant. Outside, Emma stood alone in the cold, the wind biting, knowing she had been defeated not by violence or revenge, but by justice, dignity, and the quiet power of those she sought to mock. The snow began to fall gently, dusting the tarmac. The twins' Christmas sweaters glowed in the winter light. Emma's world had ended with no redemption, no escape, and no hope for recovery. And somewhere deep in her chest, she felt the weight of every cruel word she had spoken, every shove she had delivered, every mockery she had made, finally, fully, inescapably. The story of the flight would live on, but not for her glory. It would be a warning, a reminder, a lesson Emma Caldwell would carry for the rest of her ruined life.